Shalum, Shalum and welcome. Welcome to White Robes family. My name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I'm compelled to present before an awakening nation. This is part of the Restoring Dominion series. You see, my brothers and sisters, as end times become intense, there are certain things we must step up and be strong and be prepared to endure. Remember, the Almighty Father promised vengeance, wrath. He also promised discipline to his children, those whom he loved, as written in Revelation 3:19. And the whole 12th chapter of Hebrews speak of discipline. My brothers and sisters, many of us may not have given pause or had discussions on what are the characteristics, what is the face of discipline. What methods would the Almighty Father use for his children? Many of us probably have not asked ourselves, what are the methods for vengeance? If we search the scriptures, there are examples, my brothers and sisters. There are examples where we can learn. And this segment of Restoring Dominion, restoring us to the point where we recognize the abilities that the Almighty Father Yahuah has given us through the life we've received through Yahusha Mashyach. There are certain criteria that must come to be in restoring that dominion. In this seventh portion, this seventh episode of Restoring Dominion, I want to bring your attention to house inspectors and witnesses. House inspectors and witnesses. And I ask you a question, my brothers and sisters. If you lived in a house or apartment or wherever you reside, if part of it was falling apart, if part of it was broken, wouldn't you want someone to bring it to your attention? Not only would you want it brought to your attention, wouldn't you want it fixed? Repaired? You see, some of the simplest of things that we desire and want, we fail to recognize that these bodies, these earthen vessels, are the house of Yahuah. And as we grow, we stumble. Remember, the flesh war against the spirit. So we'll stumble, we'll fall, we'll make mistakes. I will present the case, O Yashar'al, why this house, these earthen vessels, we individually must inspect them, as well as brothers and sisters inspecting one another. And I can use the word examine. Remember, the scriptures talk about examine all things so that we are not led astray. And truly I say to you, O set apart children of Yahuah, that if we are not focused, if we are not mindful of the things that are happening with this house or the house before us, a brother or sister, then we're lacking in our duties. Before I get into this and some scriptures, my brothers and sisters, let me read the following. And if you're familiar with this, O Yashar'al, you can fast forward past this slide. But it is necessary to be compliant with the video platforms that I use. Warning and disclaimer: the information contained in White Robes family represent instructions and warnings to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuah to Yahusha Mashyach. As written in John 6:44, the content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised this site is not intended for children under 16 years of age due to its content. By continuing forward, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence in or actions that arise as a result of watching, listening, and or reviewing the content presented. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. Please note that I am not affiliated with anyone or organization with similar names. With that said, let's get into it, my brothers and sisters. Let's get into this segment. Again, it is entitled House Inspectors and Witnesses. My brothers and sisters, we've heard, some of us may have heard the term, I got your back, I got you. Or even, am I my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper? I say to you, O Yashar'al, just as we are to examine ourselves, we are to examine one another daily, constantly. Not take for granted what they did yesterday that was good, meaning they're going to do good today. Prayer without ceasing is an ongoing communication that requires us being attentive, paying attention to when the Spirit of Yahusha is speaking to us, whether it be directly in spirit or through another, as he revealed things to us. House inspectors and witnesses. We are witnesses when we watch and observe what a brother or sister, what another does. We are inspectors that in our observing, in our position as witnesses to one another, we will also bear witness to the words, the orders, the instructions, the directions that we get from the Almighty Father Yahuah. Let's get into some scriptures, O Yashar'al, for it is important that you see the linkage to the words I present. Many of us probably have heard these words and are very familiar with them. And I say to you, O Yashar'al, the Almighty Father Yahuah's house is being judged first. That house is set apart, Yashar'al. You, me, us. 1 Peter 4:17 say, because it is time for judgment to begin from the house of Yahuah, the house of the Almighty One. And if firstly from us, what is the end of those who do not obey the good news of the Almighty One? And if the righteous one is scarcely saved, where shall the wicked and the sinner appear? So then, those who suffer according to the desire of the Almighty One should commit their lives to a trustworthy Creator in doing good. We are that house, O Yashar'al, individually and collectively. The face of judgment. One can use the word judgment or examine or inspect. You see, inspect is to observe, to look around. Some inspect more than others. Inspect also requires at times asking questions. What is this? Did you know this was there? What is that? What purpose does this show? You see, my brothers and sisters, house inspectors and witnesses is a call for each of us if we're going to say, I got you. I am my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper. Watching over one another and examining one another, inspecting the house, the person in the mirror, the brother, the sister, inspecting that house. You see, when we begin to realize that in these inspections, the results should be things that build and make us stronger. The results should be us demonstrating what iron-sharpening-iron is about. You see, so often one will take it and say, oh, I know what it means by judgment begin at the house. But have we ever considered the parts of our house? You see, judgment begin at the house. He examined all the parts of the house. To be strong, to endure the things that we are about to face, O Yashar'al, we must not take any part of this house of Yahuah for granted, individually and collectively. Let's get more into some scriptures. Let us be mindful that one body, this house is one body with many members, O Yashar'al, set apart Yashar'al, consisting of Hebrews and Gentiles. Gentiles mean other nations. And I can say Hebrews or Abrahym. I can say Gentiles or Goym, other nations. And as I mentioned, I peruse the YouTube and various other media, as well as interact with people from time to time. And I heard one say that Gentiles just mean the Europeans or the Caucasians or something to that effect. I heard someone define Gentiles and Goyim incorrectly. My brothers and sisters, it's just as though the Almighty Father is saying, this is the group that I've chosen to begin to implement my plan of restoration and fellowship and demonstrate the ways of set apartness. And then everyone else is all others, whom he also demonstrate set apartness, who we together, both Abrahym or Hebrews and Goym, all other nations. That includes blacks, whites, such as Hamites, those who are non-Hebrews, non-Abrahym. My brothers and sisters, we will get to understand that in these last days, as we are restored with the dominion that has been given us, we will recognize our abilities to interact. We will recognize the many members, the value of every part of this body, of this house. Let me read the following. Romans 12, 4 and 5 say, For as we have many members in one body, but all members do not have the same function. So we, the many, are one body in Messiah, and members each one of one another. That's Romans 12, 4 and 5. Move with me to 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4 through 6. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4 through 6. It reads, And there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different kinds of services, but the same Master. There are different kinds of workings, but it is the same Almighty One who is working all in all. This speaks to the house of Yashar'al. It speaks to the house of Yahuah. It speaks to us, my brothers and sisters. We must learn and grow and learn how to clean it, how to organize it, how to ensure that the many members are functioning correctly. This requires fellowship, communication. 1 Corinthians, drop down to the 11th verse, chapter 12, verse 11 and 12. But one and the same Spirit works all these, distributing to each one individually as he intends. For as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of that body, being many, are one body, so also is the Messiah. My brothers and sisters, what say you on these matters regarding the house of Yahuah, its parts, its members? What say you? Let me continue. My brothers and sisters, let's consider the need for correct positions. Let me read Ephesians 4:16. And notice I have something in bold and underline. It says, from whom the entire body joined and knit together, by what every joint supplies according to the workings by which each part does its share and causes growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. There are correct positions we must be in. Would you think it would be normal to have our two hands or one hand where our ears should be? Is it normal for our lungs and kidneys to be hanging outside the body, hanging on outside the skin? What if we just had kneecaps where our hands supposed to be? You might say, oh, you're being sarcastic. Case in point, my brothers and sisters, the body of Yashar'al, the house of Yahuah. We must be inspectors. We must examine ourselves, and we must be able to discern the positions that we are called and tasked to fulfill. The word of Yahuah, his promises, lets us know that in his discipline, he refines, he perfects his house, his body. We must begin to identify the many members, what we are called to do, and work towards the joining together of an awakening set-apart nation in order to fulfill what's ahead regarding the 144,000 and great multitude and those that will rise up in the strength and power of the Almighty Father and be martyrs for Yahusha's name. Let me continue. My brothers and sisters, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of noise, but there must be a give and take. There must be proof that as the house of Yahuah is being judged, that there are sacrifices to be made. Are you not aware of in Romans 12:1 where it say, present your bodies as a living offering? Some versions say sacrifice to Yahuah, which is our reasonable service. The time is now to begin to release the ego and pride, to release the old habits and practices. The time is now to discern and respond to what the Spirit of Yahusha is revealing. Unity will come, and it will come as we are disciplined and refined. It will come as we get under the blood of the Lamb and rise up in the power and might of the Spirit of Yahuah, sent in Yahusha's name. Let's visit the beauty and the need for unity. Consider Psalms 133, verse 1 through 3. It's a short psalm. See how good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity, like the precious oil on the head running down on the beard of Aharon running down on the collar of his robes, like the dew of Hermon that comes down on the mountains of Sion. For there Yahuah commanded the blessings, life forever. Dew, my brothers and sisters, the moisture, hydrating the mountains, hydrating the life, the plants, the food, the water that one can gather, flowing down from the mountain. How beautiful is unity, my brothers and sisters, dwelling together. My brothers and sisters, if a house was broken up and fragmented, as is the condition of Yahuwah's house right now, as we are being refined and disciplined to come together in unity to fulfill much that have been written, there's some dirt that need to be brushed off. There's some people in the wrong position that have placed themselves in positions that they should not be in. And as judgment comes before the children of Yahuah, we will begin to learn specific tasks that he has given us. We will begin to grow in discernment. Consider Luke 11:17. And he, knowing their thoughts, said to them, every reign divided against itself is laid waste, and a house divided against itself, a house divided against a house falls. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, we will move beyond the talk, just talking about unity. We will move into a point where we will witness unity grow before our very eyes. We will see how the Almighty Father bring us physically, emotionally, mentally to a weakness that makes way for that inner man, that inward man, that spirit, our spirit that is joined with Yahusha Mashyach, the power and might that is joined with the Almighty Father. We will see how in unity we will be stronger. We will become recognized before the world. Please note, there are specific details for building Yahuwah's house. That includes inspecting. When we use the term witness, it's what we discern that the Spirit of Yahushua is saying. It's what we physically see and hear. It's when we interact with one another and ask questions of one another to make sure to be clear on what we see happening with the house of Yahuah, individually and collectively. I have said that I will ask this question very often, and I will ask it again right now. Are you satisfied with your moray, your teacher, your pastor, your community leader, your group head, your fellowship head? Are you satisfied with the one that is most influential in your life? Are you tolerating, compromising fellowship and positions? Do you know when we tolerate compromising situations under the guise, well, no one's perfect, or you're not going to find a perfect assembly. When we know something is wrong, but we still hang around, we must seek the voice of Yahusha and see, is he saying to us, restore such a one, correct that person? Or is he saying, come out of her, come away from that group until such time as correction? Constantly being among compromising camps for the sake of numbers fuels the destruction of our house, individually and collectively. You see, when we purge what is incorrect, what is wicked from us, it gives that person a chance to think and reflect. As that person missed the love that they received being in an obedient camp where iron is sharpening iron, as they miss things that they could learn because they've been purged. This sometimes leads one to repentance, where they yield to reproof and come back in. And the camp is strengthened with someone else that can testify how when they were purged, it gave them a chance to think about what they did that was wrong, and they come back. Some do not, some will. But many of us are guilty of thinking, well, it's okay. Some form cliques within a camp, group, or fellowship, or a community, and talk about their head, their leader. This is wicked. Yashar'al, during these end times, the focus should be on pressing forward and growing stronger and set apartness so that we can discern the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah sent to us in Yahusha's name. Let me continue. My brothers and sisters, know the difference between a witness and witnessing. Remember Matthew 23, 25, and 26, where Yahusha himself is quoted. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are filled with plunder and unrighteousness. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, so that the outside of them becomes clean too. Though the writer is quoting Yahusha Mashyach, speaking to Pharisees, I say to you, my brothers and sisters, a witness is one that see a dirty house, hear, discern a dirty house. A witness is one that can articulate or speak on the things that they see with correction, whether it be with the spiritual eye or physical eye, or whether they hear it, feel it, or touch it, or discern it. Witnessing is when we demonstrate our house before one another, where we demonstrate our positions before one another. And it's important that we understand what he means by the inward, and that there should be balance with the outward. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, what say you? House inspectors. Yes, we carry many hats. House inspectors, and we are witnesses to speak on the matters at hand for bringing the refinement that is promised, so that we will raise up in unity, my brothers and sisters. Yashar'al, never forget the important, should be importance. Never forget how important being a true witness is. I'm going to take a moment to fix that slide, my brothers and sisters. So I ask that you bear with me. Never forget the importance of being a true witness. You see, my brothers and sisters, we forget often why it is necessary to obey the 10 Commandments. We say we obey the laws, statutes, and 10 Commandments, but how much energy do we put into examining things correctly, into inspecting the house of Yahuah correctly? How much time and effort and prayer, how much study have we invested in reading the scriptures and witnessing them come to life before our very eyes, so that we can bear a true witness? You see, Yashar'al, so many of us have said and have stated how we obey the laws, statutes, and commandments. So many of us speak on this. But the question is, are we aware that when we don't have the facts, we don't have the story, correctly, then we are violating one of the commandments in more ways than we can recognize. You see, a story passed on from one person to the next can grow. It can get out of hand, my brothers and sisters. Bear with me. My brothers and sisters, as I can make this correction. Okay, that's better. Never forget the importance of being a true witness. Consider these words, my brothers and sisters, as I read one of the commandments. Exodus chapter 20, verse 16. You do not bear false witness against your neighbor. So how do we make sure we're not bearing false witness, my brothers and sisters? We are to examine. We are to be house inspectors. We are to look at what it is that we witness and make sure we describe things correctly. Would you want someone telling you that your house was falling apart on one end? And it's not falling apart, it's just that you're renovating. Some things are under construction. Would you want someone going and spreading a story about you that is incorrect? Are you aware that there are people who have called diabetics drunkards because they appeared to be drunk when they were having an episode? Are you aware that there are leaders, mores, teachers, pastors, influential individuals, as well as brothers and sisters, who bear false witness by saying a brother is bringing confusion in when that brother or sister is being obedient to the Spirit of Yahuah? And they are quick tongues that will bear false witness because they want to support their own egos, their own pride. They want to stand out and not be put in correction and reproof. They'll throw words from the scriptures, such as rebuke not the elder. My brothers and sisters, if we are to look at those who earn the respect of an elder upon a set-apart nation, that elder should be demonstrating obedience and how to lead and how to serve and how to provide sound counsel. But if it's an elder who is spreading wickedness and evil, he or she should not even be in our midst if they fail to yield to correctness. We are to examine and make sure that we provide the actions of a true witness. This is what I saw in detail. I saw a video clip and heard the guy saying that the police was shooting everybody down. But as he was showing the camera, I didn't see a whole lot of dead bodies. But the person said, they're shooting all of us. They're shooting all of us. Oh, if they were shooting all of us, how was he able to just sit there holding the camera? You see, that was a false witness to sensationalize the video to make it go viral. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, we who are set apart must learn the importance of providing a true witness to the things that build us up, to the things that protect us, to the things that contribute to us being able to endure what's to come. Philippians 1:9-11 says, and this I pray, that your love might extend more and more in knowledge and all discernment. Knowledge and discernment. Are we not aware in Proverbs 1:7 where it says judgment begins at the house? Proverbs 1:7 that says, the fear of Yahuah is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and discipline. So the fear of Yahuah is the beginning of knowledge. Here Shaul is praying that the love might extend more and more in knowledge. That knowledge comes from the Almighty Father and all discernment. Discernment is when the Spirit of Yahusha reveals. Proof will come, evidence will come quicker, sometimes later. It goes on to say, for you to examine the matters that differ, in order to be sincere and not stumbling until the day of Messiah, being filled with the fruit of righteousness through Yahushua Messiah, to the esteem and praise of the Almighty One. Yashar'al, Yashar'al. Let us examine these houses individually and collectively. Let us determine and identify what it is that we must do. Let me continue. Consider the life in these words. John 4:1, beloved ones, do not believe every spirit, but prove the spirits whether they are of the Almighty One, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, it is important that we believe not every spirit, that we prove, that we examine, that we inspect, that we vet. We're in a world where there are so many terms, but when we get to the seed of the matter, it is to judge whether it's right or wrong, whether it's being refined or rejected. Yashar'al, let us learn how to speak truthfully regarding what we see, hear, and discern as we come together. Make no mistake, O set apart nation. End times are here. And before our very eyes, there's a lot of uncertainty. So I say to you, my brothers and sisters, in this uncertainty, are you positioning yourself to discern what is expected of you? Are you positioning yourself to execute the plans that the Most High is revealing to you? Are you discussing the matters of how to inspect the house in the mirror and the house as we collectively begin to come together? Movement will begin. During this season, I know more people are now asking, should I stay in this area till I die, or till I think I will die? You see, with COVID-19 and other diseases, with the quarantine laws and rules, people are rethinking whether they want to stay in a specific city, community, province, country. And in that thinking, there's the question, where do I go? When do I go? With whom? How do I go? Questions are coming up. Some with level heads, some in the form of cries, some as a result of pain and suffering. Yashar'al, there are plans for the house of Yahuah, set apart children of Yahuah, Yashar'al, both Hebrews and Gentiles made one by Yahusha Mashyach. And for us to rise up and demonstrate the power of the dominion that was given us, we must begin to recognize the plans and action, the details, the processes. I submit to you, O Yashar'al, and I speak on this often, that White Rose family has a plan. It is not the be-all plan, but it is a set-apart plan that contributes towards deliverance as directed by the Spirit of the Almighty Father Yahuah. There will be relocation and lifestyle changes. It has begun already. There will be those included and those left behind. I say to you, look at these bullets, O Yashar'al, or listen carefully. Do you have a place that you can identify where there are leaders, vetted, proven to be chosen by the Spirit of Yahusha, a team of leaders where you can go to for counsel, instructions, understanding how to navigate what is ahead? Do you know of a place, a center, where you can get information, supplies, resources, education, the things that you need during these end times that draw you closer to the Almighty Father and strengthen you? Can you identify a team of diverse leaders, individuals with diverse skill sets? Some working on cars, some able to grow food, some understanding the science behind filtering water as the need for fresh water, some understanding, brothers or sisters, how to care for the children, the young, the senior, the afflicted, some who are expertise in the right herbs and teas and foods that we should eat. Where are those who are mentoring the young or the unlearned? White Rose family will submit a plan that I believe, O Yashar'al, will unfold with answers to the many questions that will come as uncertainty continue to stir during this quarantine time and going forward, for things will never be the same. To purchase land in Virginia, for I believe it will be the exit point for the Western Hemisphere for those who are chosen to fulfill the final exodus. To identify and support safe zones, safe communities that have been established, safe homes, places, as we migrate towards the promised land, as we migrate through the land or the country we are in, towards those exit points before we head to true Mount Sinai, which is currently known as Jabal al-Awz. Pray and watch. Soon and very soon, the two witnesses of Revelation will emerge, along with elders, leaders, and shepherds chosen by the Almighty Father to direct and guide Yashar'al to that set-apart mountain. We will witness the gathering from the four corners of the earth, and there are those of us who will face death for Yahusha's name. Gird up, O Yashar'al, and ask yourselves, are you being trained, taught, instructed on how to be strong in whatsoever call that the Almighty Father have for you, for me, for us? White Rose family encourages you to identify what you should do in the event of any leader, teacher, physical death or demise, that you know what to do. If you find yourself alone, if but for a moment, know that you're not alone, my brothers and sisters. White Rose family, provide guidance and support for completing this journey that have begun, to provide guidance for the inner court life. And I'm calling the inner court life the life of the set-apart children of Yashar'al. While many want to focus on the temple made with hands, I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, the most critical and important of all houses is the house of Yahuah that is not made with hands. The house of Yahuah. Us, my brother, my sister. Is there talk about what we should be doing as we find ourselves waiting for Yahusha Mashyach? And I say to you, O Yashar'al, and I've said, now say it again, all things come at a price. Count the cost. We have received favor from the Almighty Father. whether it be with skills, the ability to communicate with one another, resources, finances. Count the cost. Identify what the Spirit of the Almighty Father has granted you favor with, whether it be education, traditional or non-traditional, skills that can be taught to our young and or the unlearned who are awakening to the skills, to the tasks that they are assigned. You see, if the Most High assigns us tasks, he also brings the instruction that's necessary for us to complete that task successfully. Yashar'al, if I'm saying anything that draws you closer to the Almighty Father Yahuah, that gives you the desire to lift up Yahusha Mashyach, consider subscribing. If I reach 100 subscribers, my brothers and sisters, I can name this YouTube channel White Rose Family instead of the long numbers and alphanumeric identifier that is used. 100 subscribers. And I'm asking you, my brother and sister, will you help me? Will you help me get to that 100? Would you share? One day, my brothers and sisters, one day, many will begin to recognize the talents, the skills, even the finances that were given them was for a purpose and a reason beyond what they used it for. One day, the echoes of those who ask for help, the cries, the invitation to join in and participate. One day, such words will revisit you, whether it be from me or someone else that is led by the Almighty Father to ask. I've set up a Cash App, White Rose Family. To those who utilize it, I thank you. I humbly thank you. If you want to get involved, my brothers and sisters, if you want to learn more, if you want to be strengthened, if you want to begin to identify the linkage, the things that are necessary for you to grow strong and set apartness and face as we face the realities of what's ahead. Seek out those you believe are being led by the Almighty Father and ask questions and more questions. Search the scriptures and understand the connectivity, how they should be interpreted whole, W-H-O-L-E. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. Get involved. My email, Symmanayah @yahswatchman.net. Email me, O Yashar'al. I know it's not about me. I know I don't know of any other direction to turn, but it's not about me. It's about worshiping and obeying Almighty Father. And as uncertainties begin to multiply, as we begin to see our mental faculties weaken, our physical bodies weaken, as we begin to tire from being overworked or put in compromised positions, and we begin to realize we must discern what the Spirit of Yahuah is saying to us and get in the right position, get in the right place. My brothers and sisters, I say to you, we want to witness the restoration of dominion, the abilities that the Almighty Father has given us. Many of us desire to identify what that is. And I say to you, Yashar'al, look in the mirror. You are that house of Yahuah. I am that house of Yahuah. We are the house of Yahuah. What condition are we in? It's time for house inspectors, each and every brother or sister, to look. What do we see? What do we hear? What do we discern? And what does the Most High say to us? To clean us up, to fix us up, to refine us. Who among us has given thought to the discipline of the Almighty Father? Who among us understand the dynamics when it says judgment begin at the house of Yahuah? We are that house, and we are witnesses. Let us speak truthfully among one another. Let us ask questions of one another. And let us begin to identify those who are being drawn together. There's much work, O Yashar'al. Dominion is being restored, and it requires discipline in the management of things that we are entrusted with. Pray, O Yashar'al. On that note, I salute your patience, your tolerance, your desire to pursue set apartness. I salute you, yes, you, my brother, my sister, and I'm speaking to those who are drawn by the Almighty Father Yahuah to Yahusha Mashyach. My name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I'm compelled to present. Stay tuned, for I believe I will receive breath from the Almighty Father to continue with more in the building up of the body that will become known widely as the children of Yahuah, the set-apart family of Yahuah. On that note, I say to you, be strong, grow in discernment, examine the experience, test, vet. Know that this house will be cleaned up, will be refined, as we are being prepared, like a bride being prepared for the return of the groom. Our Mashyach Yahusha will soon return. Between now and then, there is much work to be done. I say to you, O viewer, O listener, Shalom.